Hello everyone, I am Laethas and welcome back to another video, and today I'm going to be doing the first episode of a new series that I'm going to be titling Manga-nomics, which is going to be a series detailing sort of information about manga, where to get started, certain terminologies, quirks about series or information about the books themselves, publishers, mangaka, artists, authors, that kind of thing. And there's going to be different some of these videos are going to pertain to more beginners, like this video, which is going to be starting a collection / understanding your taste and sort of what you should do based on what taste. What series should you start on if you're not sure where to start with a collection and you want to start reading manga or collecting manga. And this is going to be what this video is about. And as the series goes on, there will be more advanced topics or more complicated, nuanced topics in the future. But to start off with, we're going to be doing something very simple. So here we have Episode 1, starting a collection and finding your tastes. Now, finding your tastes is probably one of the most important things you can do when you're starting a collection, mainly because your taste is going to influence what kind of series that you're going to enjoy the most, which is going to in turn influence the types of series that you should probably be buying or prioritizing over others. Do you like romance series? Do you like action series? Do you tend to like more of the mainstream series, or are you more into the avant-garde sort of art housey type works that you can see? And so it's a good idea to get an understanding of what types of series that you like before starting a collection. Other things that I think are good to know when starting a collection is, since you don't really know where to start, I would generally advise going for shorter series. 1 volume, 2 volumes, 3 volumes, 5 volumes, and I generally would not recommend going for a super long series right off the bat, just because they're more expensive to get into. If you end up not liking it, and you've already bought a lot of volumes, then that's just a lot of wasted capital and investment that could have been going towards other series. Plus, you aren't going to be able to experiment as much with different types of series. Instead of buying 10 volumes of one series, maybe you buy 10 single volume series that are all different to help you sort of realize what your taste in manga is and what you're more looking for in a series. Now, if you're coming from anime, like I did and a lot of other people tend to do, you already have a good basis for what types of series you like, what types of things you enjoy. So using anime as a good sort of background or template is usually a good idea to start. Maybe if you liked the anime and it didn't completely adapt the manga, it'd be a good idea to start picking up the manga. And if you're doing this, you really have 2 options. It kind of depends on who you are. You can start at the beginning of the manga and cover the stuff the anime covered and continue on, or you can pick up the series where the anime left off. And depending on who you are, that's going to really determine what you want to do. But I would usually advise starting over at volume 1, because they are the same material, but the way that manga presents itself is slightly different than the way anime presents itself, because in anime you have motion, you have sound, you have voice acting, whereas in manga all the images are stills and you can proceed through the story at your own pace, whereas in anime it's set for you. So you're going to get a little bit of a different experience because the medium is slightly different, but going with series that you are familiar with is usually a good idea, especially if it's a series you really like. Another thing that I would recommend is you might not want to get into a series that's short because you want more of a longer investment. And while I would generally say avoiding this, a good happy medium for you is you can get into a series that is ongoing or is longer, but has just been started its release in English. And a good example of this that I can give are the new Full Metal editions for Full Metal Alchemist. These are following the Kanzenban edition, so they're roughly 1.5 volumes of the original, and they're $20 hardcover, so they're actually a pretty good price for the manga that you are getting. Not only that, but Full Metal Alchemist is a very well-known series. If you've seen either of the anime series, you likely have some background information on this series, and so it's a very good series to get started with. Not only that, but these new editions, there's only 2 out, or 1 out. The second volume comes out on August 14th, which may have happened by the time this video comes out, because I am recording before that. But there are only 2 volumes out of this currently, so you can be caught up with this series. And one thing that's important to know is it's much easier to stay up to date with a series than to catch up with a series. One of the reasons that I struggle recommending Berserk is because it's already 39 volumes long. If you're just starting getting into manga, it's going to take you a long time to catch up to that 39th volume, and so I generally would not recommend getting into a series that already has that many volumes released. However, with Fullmetal Alchemist and these new Fullmetal editions, you can get caught up in 2 volumes for a series that is going to be 18 volumes long. And maybe you don't want to be spending money on these Fullmetal editions because they are slightly pricier than just a standard version of manga, since the standard edition is $10, this is $20, but it's 1.5, so it's $5 more expensive than the standard edition. But Fullmetal Alchemist also comes with a box set, which is something I'd also like to make note of. And this is going to be especially relevant for Tokyo Ghoul, which you are seeing right now. Now, Tokyo Ghoul is 14 volumes long, so it's a fairly long series. However, the anime is very, very popular, and so you have likely seen that and have a good understanding as to the story beats of this series in particular. The manga differentiates itself from the anime, especially Route A, because Route A doesn't really follow the manga all that well, or really at all. So if you've seen either the first season of Tokyo Ghoul or both the original first season and Route A, you have a generally pretty good idea of where this series is going, but there is still going to be new content for you to explore in the original manga. And lucky enough for you, Viz Media has recently announced a box set for the series, which means you can pick up all 14 volumes in one purchase and have the complete series. And while 14 volumes is definitely a lot longer, the benefit of box sets is you can get them all in one purchase, you get the whole series, and you usually get the series at a discount as if you were to buy all the volumes individually. So that's another way to get a series that's longer or ongoing, is to find series with box sets that are out. What anime have you seen that have manga box sets for the original manga? Those are also a good idea to look into, and they can really increase sort of the amount of volumes that you have and the amount of content you can read without being too overbearing on price, though they are pretty expensive initially or have a high upfront cost because it is purchasing a lot of volumes at once. But overall, they have a better value than buying just the single volumes one at a time. So another piece of advice that I would give you is look for box sets if you want a longer series right off the bat. And another thing, just sort of random recommendations. If you're into horror, or you generally tend to like horror stories, Viz Media has published a lot of Junji Ito works, which are all self-contained stories, and they usually have these nice omnibus hardcovers that you can pick up that are relatively inexpensive for the amount of content that you get. So right here, this is Shiver, which, unlike Tomie or Gyo or Uzumaki, which are all complete series and are one story through and through, Shiver is a collection of short stories. So you do get a lot of variety in the stories from, say, purchasing Shiver. However, all of Junji Ito's works that are out in English, or at least by Viz Media, are available in single volumes, which makes it so much easier to purchase, and you get a good amount of content for a decent price. And if you're a fan of horror, Junji Ito is about as popular and as good as it's going to really get for most people, and it's a good place to get started if you want more of those horror stories or more of those disturbing series that you might not get from a regular series, because horror is definitely its own genre of storytelling, its own uniqueness that it has to it. So Junji Ito works are a good place to get started if you want horror, especially since they're available in really nice volumes for a very good price and all-in-one purchases, and they're very short series, so you can really feel sort of excited about getting a new book because you know it's going to be a new experience for you because it's going to be a new and different story. Or maybe you're more into romance series, you want more of a romance. You have historically watched anime such as Yona of the Dawn, which has its own manga, Maid-sama, which has its own manga, but a lot of those are really long, are a lot longer, And so maybe you're looking for something shorter. So there are a lot of single volume shoujo series out there, such as Ion by Arina Tanemura, who has a lot of single volume series and a lot of short single volume series as well. Also, there are some short little josei series such as SP Baby, which is only a total of 2 volumes long, which is a very quick romance, only requiring you 2 volumes to purchase, and they're only $10 a piece. So you can get the whole series relatively inexpensively, and it is a nice romance for you to enjoy if your taste more aligned with a romance series. If you're looking for romance, Shoujo Beat is usually a good place to go to get some really good romance stories, at least from the perspective of a shoujo or a josei. Obviously, a seinen or a shonen is going to portray romance in a slightly different way, or with a slightly different tone and atmosphere than a shoujo or josei will. What usually ends up happening is you get more of a rom-com from a shoujo or a seinen romance, though that isn't always the case, but a good way to look at it is something like To Love Ru is usually about what you're going to get if you want more of a shonen or a seinen romance series. It's more of a rom-com and contains harem aspects, it's common to have those harem aspects from a shonen or a seinen romance series. So To Love Ru is also a good place to get started if you're looking for that type of romance, as opposed to more of a one-on-one sort of fuzzy, cute love type series. So To Love Ru, there are only 4 omnibus volumes out in English currently, so you can get caught up really quickly, and it's a good jumping off point for a rom-com or a sort of harem adventure type series. Another thing to note about the To Love Ru volumes is they are omnibus volumes, and you may have heard the term omnibus used. You probably know what it means, but it means you're getting more than one volume, or more than one of the original volume in one book. Because in Japan, this would comprise volumes 1 and 2 of the original work, but in English, it is all in this one volume, volumes 1 and 2. And usually with omnibus volumes, you get a better price than if the series were to be released as singles. As you can see here, this is a $20 volume for what is essentially 2 volumes of manga. And since this is by 7 Seas, the standard cost of a 7 Seas volume is usually around $13. So you are getting a slight discount on 2 volumes of manga because it is an omnibus. So another good place to get started is series that have omnibus releases, because you're usually going to get more content for less of a price. Now, some people don't like the quality of omnibuses, and that usually is when a series has both omnibus volumes and single volumes. So if you're concerned about quality, but you want to purchase manga more cheaply, there are definitely series that only have an omnibus release, such as To Love Ru that you're seeing right now. So maybe if you are concerned about quality, maybe try out some of the 2-in-1s or 3-in-1s that you can only purchase as 2-in-1s or 3-in-1s. That'll give you a good sense of the quality of an omnibus, and it's going to be cheaper than single volumes, because you're buying more, you get a better deal for the price, and so the manga sort of scales, or the economy of manga scales, if that makes sense to you. But yeah, another important thing to understand, omnibus volumes are almost always going to be cheaper than single volumes if you were to buy them as if they were singles. So volumes 1 and 2 would run you $26 if they were singles and they were standard 7 Seas releases. But since this is an omnibus 2-in-1, it's only $20, so you get sort of $6 off. Kind of. You can't exactly do math that way, but you can think of it similar to that, in that when you buy an omnibus, you are usually getting a better deal for the number of volumes contained within. And last up, you have some of the more older series that have gotten popular more recently, such as Parasite, which is a psychological seinen series that you have most likely seen the anime for. However, what's unique about this series is, since the anime took place so long after the original series was published, it modernized a lot of the things that were going on in this original work. So you are going to notice differences sort of in the setting and sort of what's going on in the world as with the anime. And since the anime is also very popular, you likely have already seen it and have a good idea as to what this series is all about, which is good because you have a good basis for, am I going to like Parasite? And with it only being 8 volumes long, it's very short and quick to pick up, especially for these Kodansha standard releases, which are $11 a piece. So you get all 8 volumes if you pay retail for $88, which is quite expensive if you take a look at it that way. However, there are ways to purchase manga below retail price, which is what I will usually recommend that you do almost always. There are a few exceptions, but those are very rare, and it usually is not going to pertain to someone who's just starting a collection, because it usually has to do with out-of-print volumes or rare volumes, stuff like that. So you're going to want to be purchasing these at lower than retail, which you can find in most places, or you can wait for bookstore sales, such as the Barnes & Noble buy 2, get 1 free sale, which happens every now and then. But that's really what I have to talk about today. If you haven't been coming from anime, your tastes are going to be a little bit harder to pin down because you're coming from a medium that's less like manga than anime is. So if you're into Western novels, what do you like about those Western novels? Or if you're coming from television, what do you like about certain TV shows? And try and match those with manga series that are either dealing with the same themes, have the similar aesthetics, or the character archetypes and tropes are more similar to what you like. But what I would usually recommend is using your basis in anime to gauge what you're going to like about manga. And since most people are coming from anime to manga, that's usually a good place to get started. And as I've said earlier in the video, understanding your tastes are one of the most important things that you can do when starting a collection, because you want to be buying series that you like, or else you're not really going to enjoy the aspect of collecting. And another thing that you should also be aware of is you have to actually like the physical books themselves. Not everyone likes to read physical copies, and if that's not you, then you probably don't want to be collecting physical books unless you maybe are a personal fan of the shelf candy. And if you're not a fan of physical books, you can get digital manga at a much cheaper price if you want to sort of collect series that way. But yeah, that'll do it for this video. What did you think of these tips and tricks? Have they helped you? Have they, I don't know, hurt you? Is there anything you think I missed in this video about starting a collection? Or do you think I should have elaborated on certain points more? And yeah, what did you guys think of this video? Do you like the new series idea? Do you want to see more in the future? That kind of thing. Let me know all those things in the comments down below. I know this video has been pretty long. Maybe I'll try and be more concise in future videos, start writing more scripts for how I want these series to proceed in the future, different ideas for this series. But yeah, just let me know all of your opinions and thoughts on this video in the comments down below, or what you have, or any other questions you might have for videos of this type in the future. What are certain informational tidbits that you'd like to know about manga that I might be able to do a video on that can help sort of explain certain things? But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed, make sure to like and share, that always helps. And if you'd like to keep up to date with all of my content, you can hit that subscribe button as well. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching this video. I am Laethas. Goodbye.